Okay, everyone, we might get started. So I'm going to just introduce Emma and
Miranda.
and
Miranda.
Marissa. Sorry, Marissa. Mirinda, sorry. And we will, just take you through what's happening with our work experience program. I did send out an email with some messages, some information on the sessions on the weekend. So if you haven't checked your emails, just have a little look. But I'll hand it over to Emma now.
Thank you, Rebecca. So good evening, everybody. So for those of you who are not aware, Vocational Partnerships is a youth organisation who has been working inside the Cairns community for the past 22 years. So we have got a little presentation to go through with you this evening, just a little bit about who VPG is and the type of work that we'll be working with your young people on in 2022. So beside me, I have got Miranda, who will be doing a lot of work with your young people on their work experience coming up and also working inside industry to try and facilitate a host employer. So Miranda, do you want to talk a little bit about VPG and what it is that we do?
Yeah, so guys, we've got most of the schools in Cairns on board and a heck of a lot of employers. So hopefully we've got something that will fulfill what your student is looking for. At the same time, we're going to we'll do interviews and we'll have a chat to the students as well, make sure that they're on the right path for what they're interested on as well.
Great. So our role essentially is to source work experience placement, so the host employer for your young person. So St Mary's has contracted VPG to work with the young people on their industry that they would like to go into, and VPG then work alongside industry to source the host employer. Okay, on our database, we approximately have 3,000 employers in Cairns that we work with, who we have undertaken risk assessments with, who host students regularly. So that means that we've undertaken duty of care discussions with them, we've gone into their workplace and we've done a risk assessment to ensure that they are good host employers and that they are able to take your young person and host them for 1 week's work experience. So work experience, why do we do it and how does it benefit the school and how does it benefit your young person? And most importantly, why are the schools choosing to invest in a work experience program? Invest their time and invest their money because it is a lot of work that's put into work experience. So first and foremost, it's a reality check. It is a road test of a career or an occupation or an industry that your young child will get to experience. So they might already have an idea of what a plumber does or what working in the hospitality industry is. By going out and experiencing that job for a week, they really get to try it on. So when we've already been to the school and we've spoken to them when they're in year 9, so we were there last week, and we really had those discussions with them, what it's going to be like for a week. You get to really picture yourself in that job and see, is this going to be me in the future in 5 years' time? Can I see myself doing this job? If not, that's still a good outcome because it means you're not going to go and study it in university. You might choose to pick different subjects in your year 10 subject selection. If it is something that you do picture yourself doing and you did really enjoy it, then that's fantastic. You'll go on with your subject selection. You'll be able to gain a realistic idea of the positive and the negative parts of the job. So we all work as parents. We all pay bills, we all go to work every single day. We get up, we do the positives of the job, and we also do the negative parts of the job. Whether we're management or whether we work at the very bottom end of the ladder, there's negative parts of every single job. Whether it's cleaning, whether it's doing the errands for the day, your young person will get to see those negatives and they'll get to see the positives as well. And then the school will work with them and they'll be able to weigh them up. What are the negatives? Do they outweigh the positives? Do the positives outweigh the negatives? And it's going to help with their subject selections and it's going to help with their career investigation work. Most importantly, the Work Experience program has been developed for your young people to gain transferable skills. So even though the career exploration side of it is wonderful and it's a great add-on to the program, the main reason why we do work experience and why the school is investing in a work experience program is to gain transferable skills. So all employers out there can teach a young person how to operate a machine. They can teach a young person how to calculate a tax. They can teach young people how to make a coffee. What they can't teach young people, because they don't have time to do, is have critical thinking, is to have communication skills, is to have adaptability in the workplace. And these transferable skills is what our employers are crying out for. Now, if some of you own your own businesses, I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm saying if you've got young apprentices on board. Young people need every opportunity that they can possibly get their hands on to build these transferable skills. When I was at the school last week, I was talking to young people about how they can gain opportunity to build these skills. So at the moment, our young people are going out there, they're going to football training or they're going to some extracurricular activity, which is fantastic. They're building a skill in the hope that they might become a pro footballer. Probably within the school, there might be 2% of young people who will turn pro. So they're working on a skill to become pro. But what all of our young people will be doing is contributing to the economy. They will be working. So we need to be teaching our young people how to go to work. We need to be teaching them the soft skills that will transcend into every single job. These soft skills are what our employers need. They need to be able to have good communication in the workplace. Work experience starts that off. So any opportunity they get where they can experience being in the workplace is going to add to this skill set. Obtain current careers information. So they're going to have a week with direct access to an employer. So they can actually ask an employer, how did you get where you were today? What was your career pathway? Because everybody's got a different journey. Not everyone's journey was the exact journey that, oh, I completed year 12, then I went to university, then I got my job. Voila. Everyone's journey is different. And it's a really good experience for young people to hear the different journeys that people have. They can find out the subjects or courses that would best suit the vocational that they need in their senior years. And they'll build networks with the local employers and contacts. So from work experience, they do possibly gain part-time casual employment, and in some experiences, they can get offered a full-time or a school-based apprenticeship or a traineeship. Okay, so it does lead to opportunities, but that just depends on the young person and what they put into their week of work experience as well. Okay, so the program timeline for your school next year. So this year we will be interviewing them while they're in year 9, so we can kickstart the program. It makes it a little bit easier for us because they do go out in term 1 next year. So VPG will be at the school next week on the 11th and the 12th of November. So we'll be there interviewing all of the students. Paperwork has already gone home, so hopefully you have seen that paperwork, where we have asked for 3 industry choices. Okay, VPG will be asking your son or daughter regarding those industry areas, their first, second, and third preference. Why did they choose those industry areas? What are they hoping to gain? What do they know about those industry areas? The reason why we ask these questions is so we can try to match them with a suitable host employer. After the interviews, VPG then brings that paperwork back to our office, and over the next 10 days, we input all of that data into our system. So your young person has 10 days to change their mind on their industry or to source an employer. If they source an employer in that time, they need to notify the school or VPG. If they change their mind of their industry, within those 10 days, they need to let us know, and the school will either withdraw them from the program or update their information. After the 10 days has passed, VPG will commence placement on the data that we have. Okay, we already have pre-booked in employers. So VPG will be matching the student to the employer. For some industries, we will be on the phone, we'll be going and visiting employers to try and get the student the exact placement that they want. VPG's placement ratio of conversion is roughly in the high 80s to the low 90% that students get their first preference area. And that's also this year during COVID. So we're pretty proud of our conversion rate, especially during COVID. Placement delivery. So VPG has roughly 12 weeks to do all of that placement matching, contacting employers. Then we have to draw up all of the insurance paperwork, and we'll then be back at the school in March delivering all of the paperwork to your son or daughter. The placement week that your student will be going out is the 28th of March to the 1st of April next year. So together with the school, we ask that they do not have holidays or go away during this date, because they will need to go out with a host employer on work experience. Industry areas that we discussed with your young person. So areas that VPG has quite a few employers in, where they're readily able to take a student on work experience. So we have quite a few in our local area, is office administration, hospitality, cookery or service, education, so schools, hair and beauty or a barber, automotive, retail, engineering and fabrication, financial services and construction. If your son or daughter is requiring a construction placement, they do require a white card, and they will work with your school in the training to get a white card, and it's also a fee that is attached to getting a white card. Okay, we provide the school with a list of the students who have identified that they want to go out in construction. The school will make contact with those students and then slot them into a white card course. Industry areas that are limited, so we don't have many employers, is information technology, multimedia or graphics, a veterinary science, so with a vet, architecture, engineering, media, allied health, law or science. Now, what we do promote is if you have specific placement expectations or an industry or an employer where you desperately want your son or daughter to go to, we do recommend that you try to coordinate your own placement with the employer, because then you will be guaranteed to have this placement. So VPG will be placing the whole cohort out of St. Mary's, which is roughly 160 students. So your son or daughter is competing for a placement. We normally get around 25 students who request a vet placement. We probably have around 12 vets who will take a student. So that means there's 10 students who will miss out on a vet placement. How we sort through who gets the vet placement is who's studying science, who's achieving the high marks, and who interviews best on the day. So we try to be as fair as possible with the vet placements. So if you have high placement expectations, we encourage you to ring a vet or ring one of those industries and coordinate the employer yourself. On the placement for information that came home to you recently, once you coordinate the employer, you can write it on the form. You can contact the school, let the school know the employer. They will then pass it on to VPG. VPG will then take the coordination from there. All you need to do is ring the employer, get the yes or the thumbs up from the employer, and we will handle the rest from there. We will undertake a risk assessment. We'll undertake the coordination. We'll undertake all of the insurance paperwork. Okay, so that is our recommendation to parents. If you are wanting that industry or that employer, we recommend that you give them a call. Industry areas that are not permitted. Now, this is either due to COVID, being in a pandemic, or this is due to the insurance from Education Queensland and the Catholic Diocese. So insurance will not permit it. Emergency services such as medical. So the Cairns Base Hospital do have a work experience program. However, this year, throughout all of 2021, they took one student. And that one student was extremely difficult to push through. So I cannot guarantee that they will take a medical student in 2022. Now that medical means nursing, means doctors, means anything inside the Cairns Base Hospital, okay? That is due to their COVID policy. That is even if you are the CEO of the Cairns Base Hospital. It is very challenging to get placements in the Cairns Base Hospital at the moment. But like I said before, please try yourself. Even though they say no to VPG, they might say yes to you, okay? Anything up in the air, pilot, air hostess, traffic controller, insurance will not cover it, so we cannot place you within an airport. Psychology, psychiatry, forensic science. Within psychology and psychiatry, we can do some placements. This is really dependent on the employer and the client confidentiality. If the employer is happy to take a student and their client is happy to have a work experience student sit in, then we can actually place a student there, okay? We do have probably 2 host employers on our books for this, but we do allow it to happen, but it's very minimal and it's dependent on the employer. Forensic science, obviously that is a no, because we don't have forensic science really happening here in Cairns unless it's at the police station, and the police station have a blanket rule, no work experience, same with the ambulance. Tattoo parlours, nightclubs, security. Due to the fact that the students are not 18, they cannot go for work experience and insurance does not cover those industry areas. Mining, abseiling, whitewater rafting, canoeing, diving and bungee jumping. Again, insurance does not cover these areas and therefore they cannot go. COVID impacted areas are constantly changing. We've got aged care, fitness, tourism and aviation. What I do say is if your young person is interested in these areas, please put it down on the form. We will have a discussion with them on the day and we will discuss it with the employer. But we cannot guarantee that we can get this industry for them because it's really dependent on where we are with COVID during that time. But fitness, tourism and aviation engineering is starting to slowly open up. The boat system is roughly going out 3 days a week. It is not a 5-day-a-week placement. And they're looking like they're going out on Saturdays. So you will have to be open to a Saturday placement if you're happy with your young person going out on a boat on Saturday. It's a tremendous placement. Some areas are now requesting that your young person does have the COVID vaccination. So if you're going anywhere within the allied health situation, they will require a COVID vaccination. So VPG will be asking this information on interview day if they have requested anywhere within aged care or within a medical area. Okay, and this is from the employer. Any referrals that VPG make on the day of industries or employers is all coming from industry. So if the medical industry have said no to us, like radiology is a good one, due to COVID, they will not take students. So radiology has said, we will not take students. However, we recommend that they do a pharmacy placement because the young person is around the products of medical, they have access to a pharmacist, and that they are also around people who are presenting with an illness. So even though your child might already work at Woolworths or at Coles, they are gaining different transferable skills because they're around different clientele and different products. So I do ask you to approach the work experience week with a growth mindset, that it's all around building the transferable skills in young people because they are going out to different hosts and they'll be exposed to different situations. Okay, so this is the form that came home and hopefully you have all seen this by now. So if you go down to section 3 on the form, this is where you get to write if you've already coordinated a host employer. Okay, so you'll get to write the business name, the contact name and position, the email and contact number, the placement arranged by, and the business placement provider, who owns it and who was it coordinated by. Okay, which comes up here, which is a little bit easier for you. So we have asked your young person for 3 different areas. So if they are after their first preference area being construction, we've asked them to put construction, and then we want 2 separate areas such as hospitality or childcare or tourism. Okay, what we have said not to do is put carpentry, plumbing and electrical, because that's all within the one industry of construction. Okay, so I need 3 completely different industry areas, and then VPG on the day will unpack what those industry areas mean. So if it's construction, what is your preferred job in construction? Is it being a cabinet maker? Is it being a diesel fitter? Like, what are we looking at? Because obviously diesel fitting is not inside construction. So we'll really unpack that with them and talk it through. So how can you help? So obviously utilising your local networks and contacts can help with sourcing the right placement for your young person. So like I mentioned before, if you have placement expectations, please help out so we can ensure that your young person has a great week, because that's what it's all about, is exposing the young person to the world of work. And for some of them, it might be their very first time in work. So we want to try and make sure they have a great week. If you have your own business, please come forward and offer to be a host employer for the program, because that can certainly help VPG in making placements as well, and also help the school with the school contacts. Encourage your young person to have realistic expectations. So your young person, when they're out on work experience, will be undertaking tasks suitable to their level. So they can only do tasks that they're trained to do, which means really observation, learning, and doing some cleaning. Okay, they will not be undertaking tasks that they're not trained to do. They will not be undertaking tasks that a paid employee is there to do. So if they're in electrical, for instance, they will not be going anywhere near live wire because workplace health and safety will not allow it. So we need to go into this with realistic expectations about what your young person will be doing for the week. Our host employers have all been spoken to in relation to this, so they all know that they have to come up with really good fun tasks that a young person can do. They cannot have a young person do cleaning duties for the full 5 days a week because that is boring. So if a young person, for instance, if they get a law placement and they go to the Cairns Magistrate Court, they actually get to sit in and observe a few cases, and then they'll come back out and write out case notes on what they actually observed inside the courtroom. If they get to do hair and beauty, they'll actually do the jobs or the tasks of a first-year apprentice. So it's really having those conversations with them about the realistic expectations about what you're going to be doing in that job. So don't be expecting young people to be going into the world of work as a hairdresser and thinking you're going to be cutting hair. I've had this conversation with the young people, but sometimes they might think that their training level is up here, but we're actually a little bit lower than that. So they're not going to be going to court and doing the things that a lawyer does in court. They're going to be observing. If they get a really cool placement, such as a radio station, they might get to read the news out towards the end of the week. So they do come up with really fun and engaging tasks that the young person can actually do. But obviously work experience is hard for a young person. It's tiring. They are going to be expected to work a full 37.5-hour week or a 38-hour week. And as parents, we need to be encouraging them through that week. Going to work is hard. Coming home, we're going to be tired. So it's talking them through that. How's your day at work? What did you do for the day? Unpacking what that day actually was with them. And as a parent, while they're unpacking it, if anything doesn't sound right to you, like if they're constantly cleaning or if just something didn't sound right the way that they were treated at work, what your role to do is to not contact the employer, because the contract that we have in place is with the school. So you need to be your first contact, contacting Miss Ambrose at the school, okay? And having a conversation with the school the very first thing in the morning. And what Miss Ambrose will do, if you either send her an email or give her a call, is she will then investigate that by either contacting VPG, and then we'll go and speak to the employer. Okay, so we do ask that the parents contact the school, and VPG will then go in and talk to the employer. Okay, so if you suspect that something is not right in the workplace, please contact the school. Getting up, having motivation to go to work, you are going to experience that in this week because it's hard. They're going every single day. That's where your role comes in. The school's done everything they can to get them to work experience with the insurance paperwork and working with the employer and working with VPG. Then it's the parents' turn to get them up and get them out of bed and drop them off, and you can do it. Have a great day. So I suppose it's really just doing all of that unpacking with them at the end of the day and giving them the motivation and the skills. And, you know, when they're having issues in the workplace, having that foresight and knowing what it's like working in the working and doing team building skills with them to work through the solution to get them to go back the next day and have that motivation. Because we do know sometimes we don't want to go to work the next morning. You know, we prefer to stay in bed, but we've got responsibilities, just like these young people have responsibility to the employer now. They've got to go to work experience because that's what they signed up to do. So by talking them through it, showing them that they're meeting their responsibility is the way to do it. Talking through them with their career options is a really good way to do that. What's the end goal? How are you going with it? What career conversations have you had throughout the week? All of your young people will get an evaluation form in their pack. Please ensure that you view that evaluation form and that they give that to their employer on their last day of work experience, because that evaluation form can actually be a really useful tool for university applications and for future job applications. Encourage them to research career websites as well, just to have a look to see what the prerequisites are and if work experience can help them. Your role will also have to organise safe travel to and from the job site. So young people have a wonderful imagination about where they're going to go for work experience. And when we ask them, oh, I want to go to work experience at Hartley's Crocodile Farm. Great. Have you spoke to mum and dad about travel? Are they going to get you to and from there every day? Yeah, I've spoken to them. They can take me out there every single day and pick me up every day. But mum and dad work on the south side. But they've agreed that mum can take me there every day. So please have a look at where your young person wants to go for work experience and discuss travel with them, okay? Because if we place them out at Hartley's, they've told us that they can get to Hartley's. When we see Hartley's, we will give you a call and just double check that you are okay for transport. But it is the responsibility of the parent to do the transport. We always try to find a host employer that is either close to your home or close to where you work. So just have that conversation about your limitations on your transport, where you can go with your young person. So they know going into interview that, hey, mum can't drive me here, so this is where I need to be. I have to stay on the south side. I can't go into the city. We don't have access to that. VPG will then only place within the south side, okay? And then they'll also have uniform requirements as well, which is normally just casual dress. Okay, if they're going to into the corporate world, they might need black pants and a white shirt. But we do notify 3 weeks before placement on what the dress requirements will be for that particular employer. Normally, it's casual dress. Okay. My next slide. Have I forgotten anything, Marinda?
I think you're pretty much covered. I think you're good.
Rebecca, do you have anything that you'd like to add? No? Does anybody have any questions for us in relation to industries, travel, anything like that? We're here, happy to answer any questions.
One thing that came up is parents were asking if they've found their own placement, do they still need to do the interview? And I said, yes, because you are doing the insurance and part of that is that you've met the young person.
Correct.
So right. Even if they've got their own placement, we still need you to go through so that's probably a good thing to think about.
Yeah, that's right, because we're still going to be covering the insurance. So we still need to do that interview and we will be ringing the employer up and having a discussion regarding that placement. And because we need to do a risk assessment as well, we need to ensure that that is a suitable match. And the school will be signing off on that insurance. And it's also for the school's sake as well, because it goes against their career education program, the interview.
It's also just a 15-minute interview with us. So we sit down and just have a quick one-on-one with them, talk about what they're looking to do, make sure it is appropriate for them. Sometimes we do have students who are approaching us, for example, veterinary science, but they're not actually studying any sciences and they're really wanting to go there just to play with the animals. So we can then unpack that with them, and whether, even if you have organised a placement for them in veterinary, maybe it may not be the right place for them. So sometimes we can have a conversation that they mightn't have thought of. The other thing is, it is a good skill to have an interview and start preparing for them for that, because we do require them to have a pre-placement interview after they've received their paperwork to go do a meet and greet with the employer. So again, doing that first step of in an interview in more of a comfortable zone with them at school it's a good thing to have under their belt.
That might be it. I can't see any other questions coming through. another minute just to see if anyone's got any questions. No. Well, I suppose if you have any questions, send them through to me. Very happy to help you with those. And yes, we'll have the times for the interviews for your young people out early next week, and then we'll go from there. Okay, lovely. All right, thank you. Oh, hang on. Lisa just asked, is a list of industries a full list of your options?
No.
I think actually, I'll let you answer.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So no, not at all. Definitely not an exhaustive list. There's a whole heap of industries out there. Why they're probably our most accessed industries and most requested, and then we have the most support within the community with. If your student is asking for an industry that is not common, please sit down with them and do the research. We had a great one the other year who asked for a cat cafe, and as passionate as they are about that environment, we don't have that opportunity in Cairns. So yeah, if they are looking at something that's a little bit more specified, please do the research and have a look and see, because we would hate for them to be disappointed if we're having to go for a second or third preference because that first one is just something we can't fulfill.
Okay. I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you very much, Marinda and Emma, for taking that. And any questions, send them through. And if I can't answer them, I'll be talking to VPG, and we work very closely. So we should get all the answers that you need. All right. Thank you, Emma and Marinda.
No worries. Thanks a lot. Good evening, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for turning up.